I never thought I'd learn the exact sound of a luxury SUV horn at 6:52 a.m. Not just once, not as a fluke, but every single morning, like it was a neighborhood alarm clock nobody asked for. But that's what happened the week Melissa Granger moved into the corner lot. Not just any Melissa. HOA President Melissa, the kind of woman who treated a laminated copy of the bylaws like sacred scripture, the kind who carried it in a designer tote like it was holy water and she was ready to sprinkle it on anyone's happiness. The kind of person who doesn't just like rules, she likes the feeling of being the person who gets to weaponize them. Day one, I hit the garage button, coffee in one hand, keys in the other, half awake thinking about traffic and meetings and whether I remembered to send that email. The door rolled up, and I just froze. There it was, a sparkling midnight blue 2024 Mercedes GLE, parked sideways across the curb cut like it was posing for a commercial. Perfectly angled, perfectly smug, perfectly positioned so both my cars were trapped in the garage like hostages. And across the street, on her lawn, Melissa, yoga pants, a visor, a pastel zip-up, holding one of those giant water bottles with motivational words on it. Breathe, align, manifest. Sipping a green smoothie like she was drinking righteousness itself. Smiling like she'd personally invented daylight. I rolled down my window, still trying to be a normal human being. "Hey, good morning," I said, polite, too polite. "Any chance you could move up like a few feet? I can't get out." She didn't even look at me at first. She just raised one finger, not the bad one, but somehow it felt like the bad one, and said, slow and satisfied, Article 9.2, no parking within 15 feet of a driveway. You're welcome. Then she turned and walked inside like she'd just delivered a TED Talk. I sat there blinking. My driveway? She was blocking my driveway and explaining to me how I was the one violating something. That night I pulled up the HOA docs. I wasn't even mad yet, more like confused. Like when you watch a magician and you're trying to figure out the trick and you don't want to admit you're impressed. Except when I found the actual text of Article 9.2, my confusion turned into a slow boil. It applied to street-side curb parking. It was about keeping the curb clear near driveways on public streets. My garage apron was private property. My driveway wasn't some shared HOA amenity. It was literally part of my lot. Which meant Melissa didn't misunderstand. She knew. She absolutely knew. The next morning, 6:52 a.m., the horn went off again, right on schedule. Not a gentle beep, a full, aggressive blast that sounded like a ship docking. I opened the garage, same thing. Same sideways Mercedes, same angle, same oops, you're trapped geometry. Except this time, she'd upgraded the performance. 2 HOA board members were power walking past my house like it was a runway, phones out, pretending to film documentation while pretending not to film me. One of them even had that fake concerned face, like I was the one causing a disturbance by existing near her lens. I tried to wait her out. I tried to call the non-emergency line. I tried to call a tow company. And that's when I learned the most infuriating loophole in suburban warfare. Technically, she wasn't on my property. She wasn't parked in my driveway. She was parked on the street just close enough and angled just right that I couldn't physically pull out. Like a chess move, like a trap designed by someone who had unlimited time and a deep emotional relationship with control. The tow driver, who finally showed up, took one look, scratched his head, and said, "Man, I can't touch it unless she's in your driveway or violating a posted city restriction." Then he looked at me like he felt bad and added, "I hate HOA people." By day 5, the whole neighborhood knew. People slowed down in their cars every morning like they were watching a live show. Someone's teenager started filming it as a series, Driveway Wars, Episode 5. kids did TikTok reaction duets. A mom on the block posted in the community chat, "Does anyone know why Ethan can't leave his house at sunrise?" Like I was some kind of cryptid. My wife stopped inviting friends over because every time someone tried to pull up, Melissa would appear like she was summoned by the sound of tires on pavement, standing at the curb, arms crossed, yelling about curb appeal violations and unauthorized guest parking patterns. Then came the notes, bright pink sticky notes on my windshield every night. "Consider being a better neighbor. Trash bins visible 7 minutes past 8 a.m. Please comply. Smile, it's a beautiful day to follow rules." One time she left a printed photo of my garage floor with a tiny oil spot circled in red and wrote, "Environmental hazard reported," like I was dumping chemicals into a river. I tried everything. Nice conversation, firm conversation, emailing the HOA board, which was basically her Pilates group friends, filing official complaints through the portal, complaints that mysteriously vanished like they'd been eaten by the internet. Nothing worked. Melissa had 3 things I couldn't compete with: power, time, and a luxury SUV she clearly loved more than oxygen. Then came the moment I stopped trying to win through reason. It was a random Tuesday, day 23. Same horn, same 652, same "you can't stop me" angle. I walked across the street, tired, not angry, just done, and said, "Melissa, please, I'm begging you, move the car forward." She took a slow sip of her smoothie and actually laughed. A small laugh, like I was entertainment. And right there, I made a quiet decision. Not a dramatic one, not a violent one, a practical one. I called a concrete contractor I knew from high school, told him I needed 4 steel bollards installed, bank-grade posts, the kind that don't bend, don't move, don't negotiate. I even told him to paint them HOA friendly, approved sandstone beige. He paused and said, "You sure, man? This feels nuclear." I said, "Just do it before I end up on the news." 2 days later, the posts went in, 6 feet apart, exactly on the edge of my driveway, lined up like soldiers, reflective strips, small "no parking" fixed obstructions sign, permit request filed, photos taken, everything approved. Because again, private property. The very next morning, 6:52 a.m., right on schedule, I heard it. Not the usual horn. This was a horn held down in panic, a continuous, desperate scream of metal. I walked outside in my robe holding coffee like it was the Super Bowl. Melissa was screaming, red-faced, beside her Mercedes, which was now wrapped around my center bollard like a horseshoe. Front end crumpled, airbags deployed, her green smoothie had exploded across the windshield like abstract art. The car was sideways, exactly where it always was, except now it wasn't moving ever again. She saw me, pointed a shaking finger, and shrieked, "You did this on purpose!" I took a slow sip of coffee and said, "Article 9.2, Melissa, no parking within 15 feet of a driveway. You're welcome." And the street erupted. Neighbors came out clapping. Someone laughed loud enough to echo. Phones were already out. A kid yelled, "This is the best season finale ever!" And that was only the beginning, because what Melissa did next, what she did after she realized she couldn't bully her way out of physics, is when things stopped being annoying and started getting insane. The tow truck driver showed up and took one look at the Mercedes hugging my bollard like a desperate ex and actually laughed out loud. "Lady," he said, wiping his eyes, "this is the best call I've had all year." Melissa did not enjoy being the punchline. She was already on the phone with 911, screaming that I had installed booby traps and attempted murder through landscaping. She kept saying the words "booby trap" like she'd watched too many courtroom shows and thought the phrase itself was a spell. The officer who arrived was a guy named Officer Bell. I recognized him immediately because he'd coached my niece in Little League. He walked up, looked at the crumpled front end, looked at the bollards, looked at Melissa vibrating with rage. Then he asked calmly, "Sir, do you have permits?" I handed him a folder I'd prepared like I was applying to NASA. He flipped through it, stamped approvals, photos, property line diagram, installer invoice, city email confirmation. Then he took one step, measured the distance with his boot like he'd done this 1,000 times, and turned to Melissa. "Ma'am, this is private property. He installed approved safety posts on his own driveway. You hit a fixed object. That's an at-fault accident." Melissa's face did something I can only describe as a software crash. "You're taking his side?" she snapped. "I'm taking the law's side," he said. "Have a nice day." That should have ended it, but again, Melissa Granger was not a reasonable person. That same night, she called an HOA emergency meeting. Yes, apparently they have those, like SWAT, but for curb appeal. She demanded my immediate removal from the neighborhood. She passed around glossy photos of her ruined Mercedes with captions like, "Terrorism in broad daylight." She brought cookies like she was hosting a memorial service for her bumper. Half the room ate the cookies, the other half stared at me like I was about to pull a grenade out of my hoodie. I showed up anyway, walked in with a folder thicker than her laminated bylaws. Melissa stood at the front like a prosecutor. She pointed to the photos, then to me, then to the room. "We cannot allow this kind of hostile behavior in Sagebrush Ridge. He installed dangerous obstacles. He has created an unsafe community environment." I waited until she ran out of breath. Then I plugged in my laptop. First slide, time-stamped ring footage from the last 28 days. Every morning, her USV blocks my garage. Every morning, her wave. Every morning, her refusal to move. Every morning, the horn. Second slide, the city permit. Approved. Stamped. Third slide, close-up of the reflective strips, the no parking sign, and a note from the installer confirming placement within my property line. The room went dead silent. Melissa stood up so fast her chair squeaked. "Those posts are ugly," she hissed. "They destroy curb appeal. I'm fining him $25,000 for unauthorized modifications." I smiled and clicked to the next slide. An email from the city planning department dated 3 weeks earlier. In it, Melissa herself tried to block my permit request. And in writing, the city replied, "Homeowner has full rights on private property. Request denied." You could actually hear her soul leave her body. The board members looked at her, then at me, then back at her. One of them stopped chewing mid-cookie like his jaw locked. Melissa's voice got higher. "That email was taken out of context." "No, it was taken out of your inbox." And that's when she switched tactics. If she couldn't control me through meetings, she'd control me through chaos. The next 48 hours were a fever dream. She filed liens on my house, fake ones printed on her home printer. She had her husband, quiet guy, eyes always apologizing, stand at the end of my driveway with a measuring tape claiming the bollards were 6 inches onto the easement. They weren't. She started a neighborhood Facebook group called Stop the Bollard Bully and posted AI-generated images of my house with vandalism on the garage door, like she was trying to frame me as a cartoon villain. Then came the anonymous 4 a.m. calls, voices screaming, "Your kids will pay the price." Someone egged my front door every night for a week. My wife found nails scattered behind our tires twice. So I installed more cameras, better angles, higher resolution, the kind you don't buy unless you've accepted you're living next to a person who thinks consequences are optional. And guess what? I caught her. Melissa in a black hoodie at 2:13 a.m. sprinkling nails behind my wheels like fairy dust. The footage was so clear you could see the brand of her slippers. I sent it straight to the police. When they paid her a visit, she cried victim so hard one officer almost felt bad. Almost. Insurance declared her Mercedes totaled. She fought them, claimed the posts moved overnight. They sent an engineer. He laughed harder than the tow driver. By now, the story had gone viral locally. News vans parked outside. Someone made T-shirts, "Free the driveway." My ring clips hit 1 million views on TikTok. Melissa started wearing huge sunglasses and a headscarf like she was in witness protection. Then she tried one last power play. She scheduled a special assessment vote to fine every homeowner $500 to pay for her new car for community safety purposes. Only 12 people showed up. 8 of them were there just to flip her off. And that's when she crossed the line from evil to completely unhinged. One night, I woke up to my wife screaming. I ran outside barefoot. Melissa was on my driveway with a cordless sawzall trying to cut my steel bollards down. Sparks flying, extension cords stretched from her own outdoor outlet across the street like a tripwire. She was wearing bunny slippers and a silk robe, hair in curlers, screaming, "I paid for this street." The blade snapped. The broken piece flew. It sliced her forearm open. Blood everywhere. She stared at me, wild-eyed, and whispered like a movie villain, "This isn't over." Cops came again. EMS patched her up right there on my driveway, while she told them I'd attacked her with a samurai sword. They checked the cameras, saw everything. Melissa left in cuffs for trespassing, vandalism, and destruction of property. I thought that was the end. I was so wrong. Because the next morning, a process server showed up with papers. Melissa was suing me for $250,000, emotional distress, loss of enjoyment of life, and permanent disfigurement from the Sawzall incident. And that's when I found out why she'd been targeting me from day one. A secret she buried so deep it took her own lawyer accidentally attaching the wrong document to blow it wide open. And that revelation, that was the part that broke the internet and broke Melissa Granger forever. The lawsuit paper sat on my kitchen island like a loaded gun. 250 grand, permanent disfigurement, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Melissa even attached glossy close-ups of a 3-inch scar on her forearm, circled in red like a crime scene photo. She labeled them Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, like she'd been waiting her whole life to star in a legal drama. My lawyer, Jonah Kearse, read it once, then read it again, then laughed so hard he had to put his coffee down. "She cut herself," he said, wiping his eyes, "at 3 in the morning while trespassing with her own sawzall. This is performance art." Discovery started. That's when the universe did that thing it sometimes does, where it just gets tired of watching nonsense and decides to hand you the winning ticket. Melissa's attorney, some guy with shiny shoes and TikTok ambition, accidentally attached the wrong PDF to an email. One click, and there it was, the original purchase contract for Melissa's corner lot dated 6 years earlier. Page 31, Exhibit D. And recorded easement giving my address permanent, unrestricted vehicular access across the corner of her lot to reach the alley behind my garage. An easement recorded in 1979, long before Melissa, long before me, long before Sagebrush Ridge existed as a community. Translation: Melissa never owned the strip of land she'd been parking on. She'd been blocking my legal right-of-way the whole time. I zoomed in, heart pounding. 20-foot wide easement. Her freshly poured driveway sitting right in the middle of it like a middle finger in concrete. She had literally paved over my access when she moved in and then weaponized HOA rules to keep me from using what was mine. But it got better. Page 46 had a handwritten note from the previous owner stapled to the contract. buyer aware easement active, disclosed verbally. And then, buyer laughed and said HOA will fix that. I just sat there, staring at the screen. She knew. She bought the house knowing she didn't fully own the land under her own driveway and spent 6 years terrorizing me to protect her lie. Jonah printed everything in color: tabs, highlights, survey overlays. He walked into mediation like a man carrying dynamite. Melissa showed up in a cream blazer and a silk scarf tied like she was auditioning for Real Housewives. She smirked when she saw me. "Ready to settle, driveway terrorist?" Jonah didn't even look at her. He slid the easement survey across the table, then the contract, then the handwritten note, then the city records showing the easement was still active and never vacated. Melissa's face went from Botox frozen to actual human horror in about 2 seconds. Her lawyer started sweating. We can discuss a quiet resolution," he stammered. Melissa snatched the papers, scanning like the words might rearrange themselves if she hated them hard enough. "This is forged," she said, voice shaking. Jonah opened his laptop. "Okay," he said, "let's talk about forged." He hit play. Drone footage I'd paid a surveyor to shoot 2 days earlier, bright orange paint marking the legal boundaries, the easement clearly outlined, her driveway, her landscaping, her precious rose garden, all sitting on my right-of-way. And because the universe loves timing, Jonah casually mentioned, "Oh, and that footage? It's already on YouTube." The title? HOA President Built Her Life on Stolen Land. Views were already in the millions and climbing. Melissa stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "You can't do this!" I finally spoke, calm as sunrise. "Watch me." We left mediation without a single penny changing hands. Instead, Melissa signed a full release of all claims, a resignation from the HOA board effective immediately, and an agreement to remove her driveway at her own expense within 60 days or face city penalties. She moved 3 weeks later. Not just moved, vanished. The for sale sign went up overnight, price slashed twice in 4 days. Rumor was she took a massive loss just to escape the neighborhood that now treated her like a cautionary tale. Her husband filed for divorce the same week, took the dog, left without looking back. Someone swore they saw Melissa at a grocery store in sweatpants at 10 a.m. buying boxed wine. No visor, no smoothie, no laminated bylaws. Just a woman who'd finally learned the difference between pretending you're in charge and actually being wrong. As for me, I paved the easement into the cleanest extended driveway you've ever seen. Added a basketball hoop for the kids. My garage door opens smooth and free every morning. Neighbors use it now with permission. We even throw block parties on that strip like it's a ribbon of reclaimed sanity. Someone installed a little plaque near the edge that just says, "Freedom begins here." Last I heard, Melissa tried to start over in a new subdivision 2 hours away, showed up to the first HOA meeting ready to rule. They already knew who she was. The video of her Sawzall meltdown had tens of millions of views by then. Someone made it into a ringtone. Someone turned it into an NFT. Someone used her "I paid for this street" scream as a meme sound. She lasted 6 days before the new neighborhood voted to ban her from all common areas for the mental health of the community. Karma doesn't always need steel posts. Sometimes it just needs the truth, a good drone, and one glorious accidental email. And every morning at 6:52 a.m., when my garage door opens smooth and free, I still smile, raise my coffee to the sky, and whisper the same 6 words. Article 9.2, Melissa. You're welcome. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and tell me in the comments, have you ever lived next to someone who treated HOA rules like a weapon? Because next time, Let's just say the neighborhood compliance officer picks the wrong house to bully.